Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me where in the world is New Nanny?
Well, he was in Boston last night. That much we know. We'll find out in a minute where he is now. Brought to you by our good friends at Kemp's. Luigi, kind enough to join us. If you have questions for him, hit the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line, which is 64686. Welcome back. I'm assuming you're not in Boston anymore. I'm saying you're back in Florida.
Yes, you're right, because it was pretty cold in Boston, and actually last night I got an alert on my phone that there may be a change in flight plans.
Ooh.
I don't like hearing that. Fortunately, we left
ahead of
7:30 in the morning, which was very good.
Well, you're going to be happy not being here because allegedly we could get like 6-7 inches of snow over the weekend. So I don't expect you to want to rush back here for that occasion. So where do we begin? So the road trip with you on the TV analysis started so promisingly, didn't end so well. Give me more generally your state of this, now that you watch the team closely all the time, but there's something different, I think you'd agree, about being there. You get a chance to really dig into the thing. What is the state at this point of the Minnesota Wild in your view?
They are playing very solidly. I know they had just the one in Ottawa was one that you want to flush. You're not going to see any more of those, I would hope, during the rest of the year. In fact, usually if you see more than one, that's unusual. That was because they were that far off. But they bounced back with a pretty good game. They had a soft spot in the second period against Boston, but they did have a number of chances. They had 34 shots. They're playing the way they want to play. But I'd say the one thing that they're missing right now is the scoring. For instance, the top line didn't score the 4 games that I was there. And when your top line's not getting a goal in 4 games, things can go bad, and that's what happened the last 2. And if they were able to, and they had some chances. Boldy must have said, by the end of the second period, he had 4 shots. He probably ended up with 6 or 7. And they had good opportunities off rebounds and quick shots, quick releases. The goalies made good saves. They missed the net a couple times. They were forechecking. Eriksson and Zuccarello made some nice plays, but no production. And when you look at it, there's 8 teams in each conference that are going to make the playoffs. And what's unusual is 7 teams in each conference are above plus and minus for goals for versus goals against. 1 in each conference isn't. The Wild, they're at 0. They're right on the other side. Detroit's a minus. So you have to try and stay ahead of goals for more than goals against. Their goals against is pretty solid, but their goals for right now is starting to reel. When you have Kaprizov out that long, that's going to happen.
Are you convinced? I mean, they're all saying the right things about the surgery, and that there were no complications that we're aware of. That he's expected to keep to the same timetable. And I know you never know until you know. And you've been had sort of nagging concerns about his health for a while anyway. So, do you have a good feeling? Do you have a little bit of an uneasy feeling about whether we can assume that at the end of the period where he's supposed to be out, he's going to be able to hit the ice running, so to speak, or that it's a little bit more it's likely to be a little bit tougher than that for him?
Well, I was happy I talked to Guerin, I talked to Hines, and both of them, I was happy with the way they reacted and how they felt. In fact, Billy was very positive, saying that he could have got through the year, we could have got him. We don't know if it would have gotten worse or better or anything. We just figured it's time now. We could do this. We got that two-week break in February. Next week it starts with the Four Nations, so you're not missing any games. And and they analyzed that, and they figured that they were much better off having it done now. So having it done at all and having that kind of feeling that it's no big deal reassures me that it's not going to be something that should aggravate him the rest of the year after he comes back.
That's the hope. No question about that.
Yeah.
All right, so the Ryan Hartman suspension, I think, was announced yesterday. It ends up being a very tough penalty, I believe, 10 games, one of the toughest in a number of years, if I'm not mistaken. I was of the belief that I have no sympathy for him. I thought he got everything he deserved. You're the hockey guy, though. What do you think of it?
Well, let me put it this way. First of all, Ryan runs hot sometimes, and he definitely was that. Here's what happened in the second period. I thought that the punishment was too severe. I was expecting 6 games, and I'll set the scenario up for it. It was the second period. He's deep in the offensive corner, and he has one of the auto guys knocked his stick away,
right.
And he there was no call. So he's going to the bench, and I'm watching him, and he has arms over by his side to the referee. What are you doing? What are you looking at? And then he gets to the bench, and more of the play happens for just a few seconds, and a whistle's blown, and we go to a media timeout. So while the media timeout's going on, and the camera's on the bench, and I'm watching him and the referee, I forget his name, number 7, whatever it is, and they're just screaming at each other, and back and forth, continuous for quite a while. Now, when we get back to the play, the next time Hartman has a shift, again, deep in the corner, he's coming out, and Stützle gave him just a vicious two-handed slash across the back of his legs and knocked him down. And the referee calls 2 for slashing and 2 for embellishment on Hartman. So that was a call in retaliation for arguing with him from the bench. So now, the next TV timeout, and they showed it because I saw him doing it again. I said to our producer, I said, keep that, bring that back out. And you saw Hines and the referee going at it because Hines was just perplexed that there was no an embellishment call on that play. There was no way in the world he was taking a dive. So he was hot. Hartman's hot in the penalty box. When you know it, the next time he comes out that he's playing against Stützle, face off, the puck's caught in between, and he jumps on him on top and drives him down. Helmet comes off while he's going down, gets cut in the eye, and that's called. And Hartman was still hot. He runs hot, and unfortunately for him, it was nasty. He should never have done that. He's already, had 4 times he's had hearing, so right away going in, when you have a in-person hearing like that, he's going to start at 5. But to go to 10 to me was excessive.
Well, the whether it's 6, 10, whatever. I mean, I guess at what point as a general manager do you go, well, whatever we think we're getting out of him, this guy's not a smart man. He's not a smart, and part of, as you know, you could say, well, he runs hot, but if you run hot to the degree he does, and in this case, Louis, you compromise really the team, right? We all know about the lack of flexibility this team has right now when it comes to making, replacements for injured players. To me, it's like, I don't want a guy like that on my team. No matter what else I think I'm getting out of him, it's happened too often. You know the history with him. I'd say, as soon as I can unload him, I'm unloading him. Am I being too tough?
Yes, I wouldn't unload him. And sometimes you have to live with
but is he good enough for that?
Some players have.
Is he good enough to live with the bad? If he's
not as good enough as you think, then it's easy to replace. You get someone from the minors, and you're not missing him that much. I think that, you're talking about 5 times over 11 years.
Well,
That's how many times he's been suspended, right? He's
This will be 5. This was 5
years old.
Yes.
I think he's maybe he's even been in the league longer than 11 years. So so you're saying every second or third year he gets suspended? That's too much to live with? No, I disagree.
Well, well, go ahead.
I want some guys on my team with fire.
Well, yeah.
Now, this is stupid. This is stupid fire. I agree with you there. And now he's going to know because he just lost himself a Rolls Royce.
Yes, he did.
$187,000. Not that he was going to buy one, but that's
is that what a Rolls Royce goes? Is that what a Rolls Royce goes for?
I have no idea, I figured probably is
probably in that range. Yeah.
But that's a considerable amount of money, and if he doesn't get smart over that,
he ain't going to then. Yeah.
No, I don't know if he is. I don't think he's going to get another. I can never say, but I don't think he's going to get another type of penalty where he's going to be called in for a hearing, but maybe he will.
I don't know. I mean, I just at some point, you'd like to think he'd figure the thing out. I'm not sure, but I don't know why this. I mean, I know this is the biggest punishment, but I have absolutely no reason. I don't have the faith that this means he'll figure it out. I mean, maybe he will. Maybe this will be the light bulb will go off in his head because I don't know, man. I'm a little surprised because usually I think you have less tolerance for this stuff because I thought it was you set up the context fairly, no question. There's other things that happen there. But I thought this was a pretty brutal, violent act. I even by hockey standards to me, I can't finesse this anymore with someone who's capable of that kind of behavior.
Well, maybe I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I didn't think it was that bad. I think he was trying to just push him down on the ice. I don't think he was looking to hit his head in the ice. And so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt maybe, but I thought that was excessive. You know how tough that would be to think you're going to get the guy's head and push it in the ice? No. I think his reputation got him 10 games. And his previous disciplines that he's had to live with.
Right.
But it definitely is. It's a tough penalty on the Wild. It's a tougher penalty on him, and you would think that after this, he's going to be much smarter about the way he reacts.
You mentioned that especially with Kaprizov out, what you got to do. I mean, that the team in terms of its defense and goals against are overall pretty good numbers. The issue is can you elevate your offense a bit at least, even without Kaprizov or until he gets back. Just sort of hold the fort. So give me a couple, as you're up close and personal covering this team for this last road trip. Give me a couple players you say, all right, I want to see these guys. They have to take an important step here. They've got to start scoring some goals. They have to start taking advantage of some of those opportunities, or else this could get a little bit, scary for the Wild.
Well, Eric Sinek, who's an excellent player, I love him, but he hasn't been as productive this year. He's nearly as productive, and I'm talking about
that's true.
This stage of the year versus last year. And
why is that?
He's got it, and a number of his goals too were coming when Kaprizov was on the ice, and he's around the front of the net bothering goaltenders, and Kaprizov's able to give him the puck there. He gets rebounds, tips, and he hasn't this year got as many as he had last year in that kind of situation. I also think that Boldy could score more. Boldy does so many good things, and he's a terrific player, but it seems like he gets streaky right now. He's been sort of streaky, and right now he's on a streak where for him it's unusual because with that kind of talent, it's hard to keep him off the board usually, but he's been off the board now. And when you look at the second line, look how lucky the Wild have been with Rossi's done. I mean, Rossi is leading the team in scoring, not counting Kirill. So he's even a point above Boldy. So he's doing his job, but you got to get the wingers like Johansson. Hartman should have been scoring more. Johansson, he won't be around now to score. Johansson can skate and make plays much better than the production that he's getting. And the Goudreau's having a better year than he had last year. He's done a good job on a number of fronts. Foligno's pretty consistent what he does. You like that. You would have liked to have seen Trennan they brought him in because he had over 21 goals one year, but he's got 4 now, and one's an empty netter. So you want to see him get more. The bright spot has been the fourth line, and they had a great 4 games. They got a couple goals, but they were putting pressure on the opposition and keeping them in the zone more. They were keeping the tempo up to keep the other team off balance, to give their teammates a chance to get going. It's not that they got a lot of goals, but they seem like they could be getting more, and all of a sudden now Locke goes out again. And I don't know which injuries he's going to be out the next 3 games, because they picked up Hinostroza on waivers today. And so you see where it's coming. The defense are doing their job. They're about second in the league in points by defensemen.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, yeah.
And so I think
it's the forwards.
Your big boys got to come through at a higher level than they are right now.
All right, you mentioned Hinostroza, who I guess was buddies very tight with Hartman. They Wild claim him off waivers from Nashville. What can he do? I mean, give us an honest appraisal of that.
Hinostroza had a history. I've watched him all through college, all the way in the minors and the majors. He's got good hand skills. He can handle pucks, set up pucks. He's going to have to play a more complete game if he wants to stay around the Wild, because his checking is weak a bit. But he's got to learn to use his body, make contact more. It's not that you got to drive people through the boards, but you got to finish checks and make contact. But he could provide some offense. When he gets the puck, he can make plays. He's been in a number of places, and a lot of times he looks like he should be doing more than he is because of his skill, and he hasn't done it. But he might be able to fill a hole or two here with the capability he has to generate offense.
I guess he's worth a flyer, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of great options, so you take a shot. Yeah. There's nothing to lose, really, at this point.
No, and I think he's better than what you got down the minors.
That's true. So we haven't talked Gophers, I think, in a couple weeks. Did they right the ship with the big weekend against Wisconsin? Because I don't think we talked about the Michigan State series the week before. Where are the Gophers at? What should we think of this club at this point on the basis of what's taken place the last couple of weekends?
Well, that was a terrific weekend for the Gophers, especially when you beat Wisconsin twice. It swept them for the whole year. And Mike Casey is an excellent coach, and to be able to beat his team 4 times is something. Even though Wisconsin's not supposed to be as good as the Gophers, they still, when you get that rivalry together, they're still extremely competitive. And the fact that there was a lot of pressure on the Gophers, and I say pressure because of the crowds that were there. They set the all-time record for people at a game, so they were playing under stress, and they came through. They're going to have to do that. If you were in Boston, I didn't go to the games Monday night. My grandson and daughter Michelle and son Latino were there, so we went out to dinner. I wasn't going to go watch BU-BC because I didn't expect them to be good games, and they weren't. There was 6-goal differential both games. But next Monday, BU and BC are going to play, and both those teams are capable of winning the national championship along with Michigan State. So the Gophers have got to be at the top of their game if they're going to go all the way here, because those are some good teams and some excellent quality players on there. But it's a good test when you're able to have Wisconsin come in, and just look at the end of 2 periods on Saturday night. It was still a real game that you're hanging on and hoping that you're going to come out ahead. And Wisconsin had a lot of opportunities from what I saw. But I was really pleased that the Gophers were able to respond like that. And it seems to me like, Bob's made his mind up on a goaltender. I thought he was going to have to do that at one time. Early in the year, you play one guy Friday, one guy Saturday, see how they go for a long time. But when you get to this stage of the game, you're February, you're starting to get ready for playoffs. You got to know where you're going to go.
You mentioned the crowd size. Over the years, we talked once upon a time, we felt like Mariucci was not as full as it was supposed to be, and there was a lot of theories about that, about beautiful people seats and not enough students there, etc. So it seems as if something fundamentally has been rectified there. What is it?
A couple of things. First of all, they're playing more exciting hockey, and they've had top teams. They weren't as good there for a while. Secondly, I think people finally realized a lot of those seats were bought by corporations. And the thing I don't like for college hockey is when corporations buy the tickets, a lot of times weekends come and they haven't even thought about giving the tickets away. No one's going and they sit empty. And I know when I was talking to the athletic director to you, I used to say, let's find a way to have a place where at the last second, if a corporation hasn't given their tickets away, they'll call a number, give the seats there, and somebody can buy them at a reduced price. So you can get people in the game, and people in the game at a reduced price, because until the Wild tickets now have gone up in the last couple of years, but until that time, when you look at what you were paying for a seat license and the ticket in certain parts of that arena, you're paying a comparative price to the Wild. And that was another thing that hurt that team.
Yep.
And when you put those seats together, and the thing that I always try to get them back to do is find a way to get youngsters in the game, get prices for the young kids, because they become the ticket buyers of the future. But at the same time, if they're coming to the game, their mother or father or both are going to come to the game with them. So you're going to have adults coming and more people at the game, even if you're losing on some of the tickets, but you're not really losing money. You're filling the stadium. They're buying hot dogs and pop and popcorn and parking their cars. So I don't think they're doing a good job of marketing for a stretch there. I was disappointed in the kind of effort they were making, about 5 years ago, even 10 especially, to get people into the stadium.
Last item for you. I want to ask you a Super Bowl question through a hockey lens. So when the Montreal Canadiens were, one of the epic, historic sports dynasties, did other people in hockey, fans, hate them? Or did they roll their eyes at that level of success year after year? Because it's happening, again to Kansas City, where you're getting a lot of people saying, oh, God, I'm tired of the Chiefs, and I don't like the Chiefs, and they get all the calls, and I'm tired of looking at Mahomes and the State Farm commercials and all that sort of stuff. Is that just the nature of fandom, do you think, where we just get tired of the best teams, even though we allegedly say we want excellence, we want teams that last so that it doesn't feel fluky? And was that the case with the Canadians back in their prime?
Yeah, I think it was. You talk about their storied past. You get 24 Stanley Cups, I believe. The only ones with more champions of major sports are the Yankees. Yep. I think they're probably up around 26 or 27. But when you look at it, in those days too, hockey was much more, championships were won much more by Canadian teams than they are now. And so the U.S. didn't go around hating Montreal because you only had pockets in the U.S. that were, at that time, having hockey played. Detroit, Boston, Chicago, and New York. But now it's all over. It's a little different. But in Canada at that time, unless you were a Montreal fan, which I'd say maybe 25-30% of Canada right now is Montreal fans, but in those days you didn't have as many Canadian teams. The Maple Leaf fans used to just die about the Canadians, but so did those of us that cheered. Like I always cheered for Detroit, and I didn't like Montreal very much at all. And I know a lot of my friends felt the same way. But you get tired of seeing them win, and you hope that somehow they're going to get beat. But then I stopped to think of growing up. I was fortunate enough to play with kids and teams that we never lost, essentially.
Right.
So everybody in the Sioux hated us. and that was, we're playing teams from Oshawa, Ontario, and there's 4,000 people in the stadium. 500 Italians are cheering for us, and 3,500 are cheering for everybody else, that comes in to place us.
The Edina effect a little bit there.
Yeah.
For different reasons, yeah.
And that's why I really, now that I've gone through this, I really appreciate the ones that win all the time and
I do too.
And win when everybody hates them, because they've been able to keep a level of excellence that infuriates others and upsets others and makes others want to hate them, and you like to be able to play a game at that level and have that kind of response.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. I that kind of excellence. I get the point. You want to see something else, and I'm tired of hearing about them, whatever. But man, if you're good, you're good, and if you can sustain it the way they did then, and even the way Kansas City is doing it right now, I salute it. Because I always prefer sports with really good standards being set at the top, right? And other teams trying to shoot bring that franchise down a little bit. I think that's when sometimes the sport is its healthiest. I know for some people say, no, I want parity where everybody's got a chance to win it every year. And I get that to a degree, but I like standards, man. And if you're excellent, you're excellent. And somebody's, take them out. Find a way to beat them. Because if you can't beat them, you can't be mad at them if they continue to sustain their excellence.
That's exactly the way I feel. I might even be a little worse than you, because I don't really care too much about parity. I want my team to just dominate.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the teams aren't there, but you have to do what you just finished saying. Get up to their standard. Find a way to get up there and beat them. And so I love the fact that some of these teams are so good, and I enjoy watching the brilliance that they have. It amazes me that a team in this day and age with free agency can do something like that. That's the real tough thing. I could see the Canadians doing it years past, because they had the first two French kids anywhere in Canada, so there weren't as many. There's no free agency. There weren't as many ways to improve your team except by a trade or by developing players. To look at the standards they're setting today, when there's so many different ways to get players, and there really isn't as much loyalty to the team you're playing with right now as there used to be. Like in our days, we never want to be traded. Now, if you sit out a couple shifts or you're off the field a couple times, they want to move on. So it's amazing that they can do that in this day and age.
Great conversation as always, Luigi. Thanks for checking in. We'll talk next week.
Nice to talk to you. Take care.
Thanks, Louie. That is Lou Nanne, brought to you by our good friends at Kemp's. Might have a chance to put $1,000 in your hand right now. Right now.
Had to say bye to Luigi.
I understand.
But the fan would love to do that. Our National Cash Contest, and the keyword for the 4 o'clock hour here on this Wednesday is bank. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword bank.
Glenn Mason would vote for loudmouth and lunch bag. Welcome back to Loudmouth and Lunch Bag on a gorgeous Wednesday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul.
I forgot he called me Lunch Bag. That's a great nickname.
Good alliteration across the deal there for sure. A lot of reaction to Luigi, to a certain extent. I won't say letting Ryan Hartman off the hook, but I think being a little bit more receptive or understanding than I thought he would be. Let me get to a few of those texts. Louie's a legend, but he's flat out wrong in showing how out of touch he is with the current game. I agree with you, Dan. 10 games is fair for how stupid Hartman is acting. Now, in fairness, I don't think Louis is saying he shouldn't have been suspended. I think he thought 6 was more in line.
Right.
I can't lose my mind over the difference between the 6 and 10. I say I think I'm fine with 10. I probably would have been fine with 6, to be honest with you. I don't think it's that big a deal. This is why hockey will never be considered a Big Four sport. I disagree with Louis. Ryan Hartman gave a blow to drive the other player's head into the ice. Dan, after playing hockey my whole life, it was a pretty soft call. Louis has it right.
Okay, one for the other side.
Very much so. Sounds like Louis is trying to justify Hartman's actions. I think if a listener chimed in with that take, you might rip them to shreds. Well, well, first of all, I'm not going to rip Louis to shreds for obvious reasons. He is a great hockey mind, but I don't think I think he knew I wasn't agreeing with him, that I thought it was he was being a little bit too easy on the individual. Here's another vote for Louis. Louis has awesome insight. Being a tough guy is one thing, but the stuff he does is basically criminal. I'll pray for him, but whatever retribution he has coming is deserved. It would be nice if he did it in-house like Foligno or Fleury, or someone gets set him straight, but it's too late from a hockey career perspective. But either way, I'd rather never see him in a Wild jersey again. Hartman's been vindicated. He was just handing out some payback. And it kind of goes on from there. So I would call it probably 75-25 that Hartman pretty much deserved what he got, but there were some people who were heartened by the approach Louis took, which, quite frankly, on the basis of my conversation with Louis over the years, surprised me. But again, we're allowed to disagree. It doesn't happen all that often, but we are certainly allowed to do so. Ultimately, on the most important question, and Louis talked about this, that this is the wake up call. I have a hard time believing that how many years into the league?
11. Yeah.
That there's anyone, that this suspension, just because it's the longest, is somehow going to get through to him in the way that previous ones have not. I could be wrong. Maybe there's something about the present and something about the draconian nature of the punishment, and maybe even you'll have a talking to where he starts thinking about, well, this might be my career on the line a little bit. That'll bring him to a different place. But Louis said it. He runs hot, and I think you're not going to stop running hot 10 or 11, double-digit years into your professional career. You either have the ability to deal with some of that hotness in a more rational way that still can be tough physically, or you don't. And I would say I think he's already proven that he can, and that it would surprise me very much if he ends up where this is the occasion where the light bulb is somehow going off in his head. Dan from Wyoming, Hartman got his leg pulled out from under him, which probably made the head smash look way worse. I have no issue with him being suspended. I just take issue with players like McDavid deliberately elbowing a player in the face, causing a concussion, and no fine or suspension. 952 guy, Hartman is a thug, and the league knows it. Get rid of Gaardsy, and the cream will rise to the top. No need for a name change. Wow.
I don't
That goes
agree
back
with that.
to the possibility of renaming the show.
Maybe we should ask Gaardsy what improvements he would make on Friday. He might have a list for us.
Be careful what we wish for,
He's
but you're
won
right.
Sports Personality of the Year, didn't he? Or
That's
Radio Personality of the Year.
Very true.
He thinks he's got some insight.
Does a Rolls Royce cost close to $500,000?
Probably.
That's what Louis suggested.
Yeah. You want me to Google it quick?
Google Rolls Royce. I guess it's possible
I've
now
never
with
had to
inflation. Eggs are like, for a dozen eggs right now, it doesn't cost like $64 or something?
I think it is.
In that range
Yes.
at this point. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it's half a million for a Rolls Royce, a loaded one.
So the Rolls Royce Spectre, the base model, starts at about $420.
Oh, so okay.
The Rolls Royce Ghost, the starting price is around $354.
So, with a lot of the extras loaded, you could see it approaching $500,000.
Now, Louis might be talking about the Phantom, which I think would probably be my choice if I was to get a Rolls Royce. The Phantom starting price is around $493,000.
$493,000.
But the extended wheelbase and bespoke Platino models cost more.
What makes a car, what's in a car that could make it approach the price of $500,000? Is it simply the status of it?
Yes.
Or is it there's actual stuff in it that make it like, oh my God, this is more expensive material in this particular vehicle?
I think
than
it's
you'll
just
ever see?
everything. I just think everything is elevated to a different level, whether it's the seats, the buttons, the screen, everything that's heated, everything you can roll up and roll down. That would be my guess.
Interesting. All right. Well, we may have a few Rolls-Royce owners in our audience. We have a very eclectic group of listeners. Some of them quite wealthy, some of them not so much. We welcome all of them to the program.
I love when my rich friends text me to tell me what the actual car, like Rolls Royce is like tired now.
Is a
now
Bentley,
it's about a Bentley.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, is a Bentley more expensive than a Rolls Royce or just more fashionable now?
I don't know. Here's what I got from a friend of mine.
Okay.
Rolls or BMW now. Don't do it. Get a Bentley.
A Bentley, I think.
If you have the means.
I thought Louis had a Bentley.
He might.
I can't remember.
I think another friend of mine has a Rolls.
Yeah, it could be.
I've never been, he's never taken me in a ride.
There was a motion picture that little Danny Barrero went to. Every Friday night, we used to go to the Y&W Drive-In, Merrillville, Indiana, just south of Gary.
Yeah.
And so this would be mid-'60s. There was a motion picture called The Yellow Rolls Royce. Rex Harris, a bunch of actors. It's an all-star cast. And basically, it was, well, for whatever reason, it all was based around this particular vehicle and different models of it, and in different people in different situations having owned this vehicle and how it all kind of came together. You can look it up. I'm sure you can rent it. The yellow, why yellow? I have no idea. Maybe it was just a fashionable thing at the time.
Unique color?
Yeah, it could be. Bottom of the hour pause. Kessler in about 1 hour. So it appears that Julius Randle's going to be out for a while, correct? There are people who are devastated because they think, well, that might end any chance that the Wolves would have to move him. I honestly don't think it would get in that way. I don't think it's that kind of an injury. It probably doesn't help. I think the bigger hurdle is I'm not sure how much of a market there is, and it's fairly clear the Wolves don't just want to dump him. If they did it, they would want to try to get something in return.
Yep.
And I don't even know what that is, in all honesty, at this point. I'm not sure that there's anything out there. I think it may well be that they're going to have to figure this out on their own. Maybe there's a minor deal you can make that does give you a chance to add a backup center. By the way, wasn't Jordan McLaughlin part of the one of these deals? Was it the Luka deal or was it the Fox deal?
I don't know which one, but he's on his way from Sac.
So I think that might have been the Fox deal. I'm not sure. But I've forgotten all about him, and that's not easy to do because he was, he's a good, nice little spark plug player.
I always liked him.
At times, yeah.
I always liked him. J-Mac is going to the Spurs as well.
Spurs, he was part. Okay, yes. There you go. Yeah. So, in all honesty, I don't think that's going to matter all that much. I don't think there's any reason to believe we're going to be able to do anything all that ambitious. The Phoenix story is weird because there's a disconnect on this one that has to be better explained than it has been to this point. Because one of the things that's been written is that part of the reason you're hearing about the possibility of Durant leaving Phoenix is the belief that might be the only way they could get the buckets deal done. And I'm saying to myself, that might be one of the most asinine, illogical arguments I've ever heard of the National Basketball Association, and I've heard all of them over the decades. Because, in all honesty, you're a decent basketball mind.
I try to be.
Okay? You like Jimmy Butler.
Right? I do.
Who's a better basketball player, even with their age disparity? Kevin Durant or Jimmy Butler?
Kevin Durant.
It's not close.
It's not close.
Even at his age.
And there's not much of an age disparity.
And there's not that much of an age disparity.
A couple of years.
And there sure as hell is a huge disparity on availability, right? Durant misses some time, but he doesn't miss Butler time. So it's like, that's stupid. We're going to work. We're so desperate to get Jimmy Butler that we'll trade away our best player, well, historically, Kevin Durant. No, the only way it makes sense to even entertain the Butler nonsense is you play him with Kevin Durant, right? So there's got to be a disconnect in either the reporting or the logic there.
Well, you don't want Butler, Booker, and Beal.
No, No, exactly.
Well, you don't want Beal at all. That's Phoenix's biggest problem.
Durant's not the odd man out.
No.
Then Beal you want, but Beal, the problem with Beal is he so far allegedly has not been willing to waive his no trade clause.
And nobody wants him.
Nobody wants him.
At $51 million or whatever it is.
Yes.
Doesn't mean he's a bad guy or a bad player, but he's got a bad contract, especially now in second apron land.
Yes.
When everyone's trying to avoid these crazy contracts like they want to.
It's a very, very strange thing. Are you familiar? Who is the ex-NBA player who's now doing one of the sports talking head shows with your gal, Michelle Beadle? Is it Chandler Parsons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Chandler Parsons.
Well, Chandler Parsons is getting lauded and applauded for a rant he went on regarding what he viewed as the uncivilized, less than classy way that the Dallas Mavericks dealt with Luka Doncic. And, that don't you have some obligation? You got to bring him in at some point into the mix, and you have to talk to him, and you have to be fair to him. And, like Johnny has pointed out, that I don't think Cat had a lot of advance notice that he was going to be traded, but that at least Tim Connelly had the decency, once he did trade him, to drive over to his house.
Yep.
And that's a nice gesture.
A very nice touch.
It's fine. But the fact of the matter is, on the larger issue, Connelly, he may regret it at this point, but Tim Connelly did what he thought he had to do. And he might well also have said, I can't open this up. I can't go to Cat's house to say, we're considering moving you.
Right.
But for all the obvious reasons that we've laid out, that the whole deal might unravel. So I would say respectfully to Chandler Parsons that, again, it sounds good to say, well, do the decent thing with you got to bring him into this much earlier and do the decent thing for a player who has transformed your franchise. No, not in the current power struggles that exist, especially in the NBA, where and I know that players and their agents play the game. And I'm not ripping them for it. But I'm saying if they can play the game the way they do you think a lot of the rumors that agents spread on behalf of their player about, well, no, he didn't really want to go there, and Jimmy Butler ain't signing with Golden State, et cetera, is that above board? No, it's agents and players wielding power in real time in a way that they think is most effective for that player. Now, I would argue in Butler's case, he's destroyed his credibility with the approach he's taken, and if his agent isn't aware of that, then he should be fired if he even has an agent. I don't even know if he has an agent. I assume he does. But the fact of the matter is, teams are rightly, I think, it's unseemly, you could say, to the first, what time Luka finds out is when he's traded. But I'll say what I said again yesterday. All's fair in the power struggle at this point. And if teams are trying to wrestle back control a little bit to the point where they want to make sure the deal they've decided in their infinite wisdom or stupidity is best for the team, then they're doing it exactly the way they have to do it too. So let's not be naive about the willingness of players and their agents to wield their power, and that's fine. But the idea that we're going to be like, well, that's kind of not very decent given how much he's given the franchise. Well, yes and no. The teams, management, ownership, whatever, they got to do what they got to do at this point. And once you open the door, as we said yesterday, it may well be the deal unravels, because then maybe the team that wants to take the player finds out, well, God, he's basically threatening. He ain't going to sign here. Now, with the Lakers, my guess is he will sign in Los Angeles.
Yep.
But if it had been someplace else, or maybe for whatever reason he didn't want to go to L.A., well, now that's not the Mavericks' problem anymore. They've made the deal. They may regret it, but they've made their deal, and now it's the Lakers' problem, if indeed it is a problem at all.
And they don't have to sign him to the Supermax because he's not eligible for the Supermax. So it's actually less of a problem for the Lakers. He'll be their new max guy. And that's what's been interesting about reading about all these contracts and all these possible trades. The second apron thing is real, and it's damaging a lot of teams and rosters. We obviously know that firsthand right here. You build a team under a different set of parameters for years and years and years and years, and then all of a sudden it gets blown up like it has. So I read something today from one of the insiders, I don't remember which one, that talked to somebody that thinks the new logic is there might just be like 10 max players that are actually worth the max in the entire NBA. And it used to be, there's a reason why Bradley Beal's got a $51 million contract, because he was going to be he was the max player for the Wizards. One of the max players. And he used to be able to afford two of them. And so he got the max, the big one, from the Wizards. Then he got traded. Now he's got a terrible contract. So teams are hesitant to give those deals out now, I think. And $350 for Luka, they maybe just didn't want to do that if they weren't all in. I don't know.
It's and again, I mean, they may regret it. I said again, the Lakers, I think, had to do what they had to do. But I will say, right now, at least, the Lakers don't have to worry about committing $350 million to him. Right?
And never, because they'll have to pay him less.
Exactly it. I think he ends up losing, at least in the short run, I think $100 million. Now, he may end up making it up later. But the idea, it's being presented as what a dehumanizing thing, and it is. But I would argue
that's showbiz.
That is showbiz. And do player agents and players worry about that? The ability, when they're trying to manipulate and influence an outcome, they're not worrying about what impact that might have on other lives, because those are other people that they play with, etc. So I'm not ripping them, but I'm saying let's not be naive and say that this is showbiz for everybody. And to that extent, owners and front office people, I think, have every right to try to wrestle back as much of that control as they can in order to get the deal done that they want to get done. In a league where, and I think basically what Parsons is kind of saying a little bit is, wait a minute now. I thought the pendulum had swung far enough where the players are supposed to control all of this. Well, maybe not. Maybe the pendulum, I don't even say the pendulum has swung too far, but I'm saying I don't think anybody should be surprised or expect teams to apologize for trying to wrestle back some measure of control and say, we're trying to make this particular deal. The idea of trading humans, yeah, it's all a little bit sordid, but it also happens to be the lifeblood of the way these leagues operate, right? Because this is a consortium of teams that all have to work together. By the way, I didn't have to break again at 42, did I?
You shouldn't have to.
I don't think so, yeah, because we caught up from last hour. Yeah, we should be in good shape. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open, and that number is 64686. I'm as curious as anybody to see. The trade deadline is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central, so it'll be just in time for when we start at 3. Mm-hmm. I hope there's some. I mean, you never know. I guess. I mean, there could be some kind of a blockbuster. But who would be the player? I mean, because Butler is not a block. It's expected if it's going to happen at all. But I don't think Butler's viewed that way right now. So.
Well, it's a big domino.
Durantula would be, I think, the guy.
Yep.
But is there another huge player? I mean, LeBron, after the Lakers played last night and they dominated the Clippers, obviously already inspired by their new teammate Luka being on the bench.
Yep.
And after the game, somebody said to LeBron, try to get LeBron going. One of the Jackals said, hey, man, how do you feel about this kind of move? Because the Lakers, it seems, really made this move for the future, and you're 40. So how do you feel about that? LeBron gave a great answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if he meant it, but he basically said, well, what's wrong with what they did? I mean, I'd do the same thing. That's the next generation. And if it bothered me that much, I would waive my no-trade clause, and I'd be out of here.
I'd get up out of here. Yeah.
And so now maybe that was a bummerooski, and he'll be traded by 2 tomorrow.
With LeBron, you rule nothing out.
I guess that's true.
But I'd be surprised.
I think it'd be pretty unlikely at this point. But I thought that was a good answer on his part. So I don't think it's going to be. He's not going to be the big name that's going to go.
No, I mean the names that are listed are the ones that we've all talked about. I mean, Butler and Durant are the two big ones, and then but those can't really do anything unless you can figure out something with Bradley Beal, who's I'm just looking at Hoops Hype, and they kind of have those three ranked as the top 3 questions to answer. LeBron was in that mix too.
He was,
because people were wondering, what does this mean? Does he go to Golden State? Remember, Golden State's trying to get everybody.
Yes, they are.
Golden State's trying to get LeBron.
And supposedly Phoenix, by the way, wants Draymond Green too.
Do they?
Yeah. So I don't know what Phoenix is up to. The Ishbias are pretty mysterious and a little bit scary, you could say, because they're the ones who were just fascinated with getting Beal, right?
Yes, but it was also under the old era.
Yeah.
When that whole thing started.
But that mix never made any sense.
No, it didn't.
That's the point in any era.
It
don't
didn't.
think.
And it limited their ability to actually have a point guard, and defensively they're a mess, and the whole bit. By the way, yesterday, remember, you said I was probably going to lose my mind if I watched the Lakers press conference with Rob Pelinka.
Yeah.
And all the platitudes and self-grandization. So I didn't see the press conference, but do you know, you're right, first of all, that I would have. But do you know what almost made me throw up just immediately?
The jacket.
The jacket. You're like 60, bro. We can't be wearing these leather jackets.
Where the zipper is open at the bottom and the top.
Like, we're happy for you that you have a Peloton Plus, and I'm sure it's got a great view in Beverly Hills or Manhattan Beach or wherever you live. I watched that and I go, what are we doing? Like, what? I appreciate Tim Conley and his very sharp polo sweater combos that he likes to wear.
Very unassuming.
I get it. We're Hollywood, and you're Pelinka, and you were Kobe's agent.
Well, and he's feeling his oats because it was a hell of a move. There's
of
no
course.
question.
And he's had a lot of great moves.
Well, what's weird is no one else was as bothered. In fact, some people said they thought it was restrained and stripped down, like they didn't bring back, Magic and Kareem and Kobe's family and all that. Well, yeah, that's true.
They were at Pauly. That was awesome.
Which is actually pretty good.
Oh, that was great.
But I still thought the verbiage was like, oh my God, this is nauseating.
Coupled with the jacket.
Just let it speak for itself. Other people are going to say everything you had to say out loud. It's better when it comes from them. You just say, another day at the office. We're just trying to do the best we can to give us another 10 to 15 years of being relevant. That's our job. Our job is to keep this franchise as relevant as possible. And when we were presented with the opportunity to get a player this good, we went out and attempted to do it, and we're glad we were able to. But oh God, I thought it was way too thick.
If I ever have a jacket on like that, please call my wife and have her get me some help, or just say,
how much do you think that jacket goes for?
Probably like $2,000.
I think probably more than that.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe Rolls Royce like.
Yeah.
I bet you
it looked like it came with a car. It's like you need to buy this Ferrari and you get this jacket with it.
I wonder if he bought it just for that press conference. He said, I got to do something. I got to do something because this is like
Rodeo Drive.
He's cock of the walk right now. I mean, he is living large, right? He has made his team, at least for a minute, the talk of the league. Now, what'll be funny and interesting is when he thinks he gets fouled and stays in the backcourt for the next 7 seconds while his man scores on a layup, will he feel the same way about it? Because that's part of what you have to accept, I think, with Luka.
Yes.
The home run, of course, would be on the weight and staying in shape is the ultimate shape guy, the guy who spends, what is it, $1.5 million on his body every year.
That's the rumor.
LeBron is the guy who kind of gets across to him, bro, come on. You do this right, you could be playing until you're 40 if you do this right. But that means you're going to have to make some changes. I got a dietitian for you.
Yep.
I don't know if that'll work.
No more IPAs. We drink wine around here.
To that extent, from a physical standpoint, that's a great role model to have on your team.
It is. I'm not, I guess, what's the word for it? I'm not convinced they're not going to be really good with these two.
No, I think they're going to be good. They have their issue is defense.
Yeah.
They got no inside presence left.
They've got 12 hours to figure it out, or 24.
Well, that's what everybody thinks they're going to try to do.
Imagine the jacket.
Because they might give up 140. Now, they may be able to score 150. That's the thing. But I'm with you. I think, put it this way, I wouldn't want to play him in the first round.
No.
I absolutely. Well, oh, my God.
What if you had to play him in the play-in?
Well, then we're out. We're probably out soon.
Yeah.
I don't like our chances beating them. I don't. I mean, you could say, well, what the key to that would be we have to score at will against that. But we don't always do that. We do that intermittently, but we don't do that every night.
Because if you think about it, the reason why they're going to be so great offensively is pretty obvious. So let's just take the Wolves, for example. McDaniels would probably guard Luka, right? Or do you put Ant on Luka? By the way, Ant's defense has been no good this season.
Well, it's been inconsistent at best, I'd say.
But when they need it to be good, it just hasn't been very good. So you got Edwards, McDaniels. Obviously, DiVincenzo can guard a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if he's healthy by then.
Yeah. Who else am I missing in our lockdown?
Well, Nah. Yeah,
okay, so you got him in there
a little bit. Yeah. We probably send 2 or 3 different people at Luka. And then, worst case scenario, Rudy's got to guard him in a switch. And we all know how that came out.
I walked into that one.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I ran into that one unknowingly like Rob Dillingham off a screen. You just erased me with that one. I didn't even see that.
Well, can you imagine Rob Dillingham trying to guard Luka? I mean, he weighs twice as much.
He does.
He's strong. He's got great. He's got the ability to get at you from any angle.
Yeah.
It would be ugly.
It'd be like Space Jam with the Looney Tunes and the monsters.
Yeah. The ultimate revenge for Luka would be to gain 30 pounds and win a title. And again, did you see the press conference?
He
you
looked
just listened
good.
To it? I don't know if he looked like BMI of one of the great young NFL head coaches, but he didn't look, like I said, as if he was a sumo wrestler, which is what everybody had kind of predicted, right? I think he's supposed to play Saturday night. I think that's the plan.
Cap's feeling better?
I mean, can you imagine? I think he goes back to Dallas in March. I think that's the first. I think they play each other. I think Dallas comes to L.A. in mid-Feb, pretty soon. But they go to Dallas. I mean, you want to talk about the build-up for that ball game?
Yeah, I'll be watching.
God, how could you not watch it?
Yeah, I'll be watching.
The over-under for that game, 56 for Luka? I'm guessing 56 points. What the over-under? Right in that range. What do we have? We have Kessler at 5:30.
People are sending me pictures of Rob Pelinka now from yesterday.
It was.
He looks like Rob Lowe playing Rob Pelinka in a movie, trying too hard to look Hollywood.
Rob Lowe is the name that's come up a lot.
He does look like him.
And he's a good-looking guy.
I got to see where he's from. Here's the best part. He's from Chicago.
That jacket. See, that's not a Chicago jacket.
No, he's from Chicago. He went to Michigan.
That's not a Grabowski jacket.
What I learned from Mitch Albom all those years ago was Pelinka was on Michigan when the Fab Five arrived.
That's right.
The Fab Five. So, I've known the name Pelinka since I'm 12 years old.
Yeah.
So Pelinka kind of got pushed out by the Fab Five a little bit. So he's obviously a smart guy. Ross School of Business.
No
we're
question.
Happy for him.
Yeah.
Lake Forest High School.
Well, that's privilege.
Yes. But that jacket ain't Lake Forest, is it?
Well, Lake Forest, it kind of is. It's
Michigan Avenue?
It's
a little bit of that?
It's not Gary, Indiana. It's not my hometown. It ain't south side of Chicago. But the northern,
he's got the pursed lips. I'm going to do something here.
Yeah, he's. It's part of the deal there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and look at video and film of Pat Riley as a player, and compare it to the look he established once he became the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, it'll blow your mind. He had the big mutton chops. He had a mustache going. He was
Kentucky, right?
He was on a Columbo episode, for God's sake. The Lakers, several real life Lakers were featured in a Columbo episode, and look at him there. He basically looks like some hick from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he completely, remade that. It was the suave, sideline look to the point where, was it Town who made the movie Tequila Sunrise? He wanted Pat Riley to be in that motion picture because he had such a Hollywood-esque look. And the irony again is, as a player, but even as a coach, he's blue collar as hell.
He's rugged.
He's demanding. He's driving his players. But the look was very Hollywood on the sidelines, very slick.
So I just got back from L.A., as you know, for about 5 days. I love L.A. I could absolutely live out there.
I love it, too.
Even with the traffic.
I'm with you.
Here's my question for you to ponder. How long would I have to live in L.A. before I felt good enough or I was changed enough to wear that jacket? And the black shirt with the chain.
You know what? It might happen sooner than you think.
Maybe Josh Broughton can weigh in because I know
it
he's
might
listening.
happen sooner than you think. Top 5?
We've got Wolves, a Julius Randle update, and your Minnesota Twins cannot stop spending.